Hi folks, John DiCiomo here from Drumland, and in this video I'm going to show you how to assemble and tune this awesome Yamaha Stage Custom drum set. Congratulations! You just bought your very first drum set. Now you need to know what to do to set it up, tune, and enjoy playing. Well, we're going to show you how to do that right now. Welcome friends, my name is John DiCiomo, owner of Drumland here in Woodbridge, Ontario, and we are using today the Yamaha Stage Custom as our setup example. So, let's begin. Most of you may or may not have this box cutter. What's really important is this little clip, and that's for the staples on these boxes. If you don't have a box cutter with this clip, use a standard screwdriver. What you want to do is just get that staple out of here, staple out of here, and discard them so you don't injure yourself. Next, with your screwdriver, run it along the side, open up the box, this side. And the reason why we start on the sides is that you then lift it up and just on the tip of the screwdriver, just run it across and then pop it open. The reason for that, I'll show you in a minute, is because they package the heads right on top. Now with the Yamaha Stage Customs, they put the heads into a cardboard box, so just in case you do go a little too deep with the screwdriver or your box cutter knife, at least the heads are protected, and nice packing job. So we will get to that in a minute. The all important tool is the drum key. The drum key is a universal tool for assembling and tuning the drums, and also for key bolts to place memory clamps into position to keep your drums and cymbal stands in the places that you want to keep them. So we'll come to that in a second. Then we have the shells packaged inside one another. So beginning with the tom-tom here. This looks like the 12-inch, and notice that it's wrapped in plastic, so we're going to remove that. Yamaha did a fabulous job on their Stage Custom series. They use the yes mans that are found on their professional drums. Nice screwed on badge here, and this is a birch shell in their intermediate range. Really nice, very popular color as well, the honey amber. We sell tons of these drums. So as you can see, this drum comes with the heads already installed, so that's great. Let's check out the tuning. Not too bad, a little bit of tweaking, we'll get to that later. So same sort of thing, you just remove the plastic from it. Let's check out the tuning. A little bit on the high side, but again, we'll use our drum key and we will tune it up. Okay, so next we have the 16-inch floor tom, and as you can see, we have two counter hoops here, top and bottom. and no drum heads. So we're going to be putting the drum heads on the floor tom, using our drum key, and then we've got counter hoops for the bass drum. It's good to see all this protection. So it's amazing how they package these drums and ship them across the world to us, and you know, they do it in one box for the shell pack. We'll get to the hardware pack later, and we'll pair it up with some nice cymbals. I'll show you all that later on in the video. Here comes the 22-inch bass drum. And as you can see, we've got a counter hoop over here. And I'll just set this aside. Again, no drum heads on the front. And a couple of pieces left. We have the floor tom legs for the floor tom. We have the snare drum and a snare box. Let's open this guy up. Again, just cutting the sides of the box, and then it just pops open, and voila. So what's really nice with most drum set setups is that the snare drums are usually assembled top and bottom, and that's simply because we have snare wires and a few more items on the snare drum. So for first timers, you'll be like, oh, what do I do? And you know, what's this supposed to sound like? We'll get to all that. But really the nice thing is that snare drums come assembled, and it's really just a matter of tweaking and getting it up and rolling. And finally, we have another box here. Let's take a look. Side, side, a little bit here. And we have bass drum claws. Oops. And we have tom holders for the rack toms, and we have tension rods. So we're gonna discard the cardboard, and then we'll get into assembling the drums. Okay, so just removing the bass drum heads and the tom-tom heads on the packaging. So here we have the clear single-ply heads made by Remo. This is for the floor tom, the 16-inch floor tom. And we have the batter head, which is a single ply power stroke. And the reason why we call it power stroke is that it comes with a little skirt here, and that helps control the overtones. That's that sound after you hit it, it goes boing, well, it reduces that. And then we've got a beautiful ebony head, the Yamaha logo on here. Again, another power stroke. It's got a skirt that'll control the overtones. And let's put this bass drum together. So what will happen is that we're going to assemble the bass drum, and we're doing that with the bass drum tension rods. It comes with a little washer, and with the claws that has this rubber insert here, this gasket, protect the wood bass drum counter hoops. So at this point, what we do is we take our bass drum tension rods, has a little washer here, and we insert it into the claw, like so. And then once we put the drum head on and the counter hoop, what we do is we find the logo for the drum head and center that. Different logo positions for different drum heads. Some will be at the bottom, some will be at the top. So you just look for this logo here, and it's at the bottom and center. Then we have 2 hoops included. What you want to do is find the hoop that has the hoop guard. And this is where you're going to clamp the kick pedal. So this guard will protect it from the claw digging into the hoop. And we want to find the rounded side. Notice here, again, centering. Put it and position it so that the kick pedal is going to go here, clamp onto there. And then with this counter hoop, again, we look for the rounded sides because the claws are rounded. Some claws are square, and that's because the counter hoops are flush. This case here, it's rounded. So we just start putting our claws on. One thing I should advise everyone is that, and I've seen it happen and I've been guilty of it myself, is that we put the drum head on, not realizing that we put the batter side on where the resonance side is. So what you do is you look for where the bass drum spurs are. They're supposed to be at the front. So when you see that the spurs are down here, that means that's where your resonant head is going to go. So we've got all the tension rods and claws in place on the bass drum. What we're going to do now is just opposite sides, just finger tight. The bass drums typically are the easiest drum to tune. All you really need to do is just take your drum key and do a quarter turn either side to the point where the ripples disappear. You could do a little tap test along the way. You'll hear things rattling and different pitches depending on where you hit. So there are tuning devices out there that you can use. We sell them, whether it be drum dials or the TuneBot, which is also a very popular tuning device. As you can hear, as I'm tightening the tension rods, we're getting a little more tone. So now we're hearing what the drum characteristics are giving us. Of course, you know, once we get the drum set up, we'll do a little more tweaking, but this is just to give us a starting point. And this is what it's supposed to look like. Drum head, no ripples, got our hoop guard, tension rods and claws, all nicely lined up. And now we're going to put the resonant head on. Nice ebony drum head, Yamaha, and we want to line it up. So what I usually do at this point, it's easier when I'm a stickler for straight logos. You can ask my staff that. So always look at where the logo is positioned. Hopefully I got it lined up good there. Our counter hoop with no guard, so we know it's going to be at the front, and the flat side goes with the on the drum head, rounded edge to accommodate the claws. And let's start building. We also sell a drum key, drum bit key. So what that does is basically like your drum key that you use by hand. It's this end here. You insert it into a power drill, and you can just zip along and do that. So they're about $5-6. I like doing it the old-fashioned way, putting the bass drum claws in by hand. It develops muscle memory and trains you while you're assembling the drums to how it should feel. There are different lug inserts on the market in the marketplace, and you know, we're in that touchy-feely industry, right? We're holding drumsticks in our hands and we're choking cymbals and all sorts of stuff. And the same goes with assembling a drum set. So you're going to feel the threads of the tension rods as you turn them. So finger tight, either side, all the way as far as you can. Opposite ends, we want to keep equal tension. So using a drum key early on in your career is a good idea. You get the feel of the drum. You get to know what the drum can give you. Do a little, not bad. Let's check out my handiwork. And it looks to me that we have a straight logo on this drum. Next, we want to support it, because if we just leave it like this, it's going to be rolling all around. So we don't want that to happen. So we now loosen up the wing nut here on the bass drum spur, and we just set it down like that. And now at this point, you can see that it's still rocking a bit. So we take our drum key and we loosen this key bolt. It will then slide down. This part will now slide down. We'll do the other side. So let's see where it's sitting. It's sitting on the floor or on the table. So what we can do is just raise it up just a smidge. The other feature on these bass drum spurs is that they have rubber feet or the option of a spike. So if you're on linoleum flooring, any type of flooring, hardwood floors, you want to use the rubber feet. It's very, very important, because otherwise if you've got the spikes, and the bass drums will move, same thing with hi-hat stands, anything with spikes on them, anything with tripods for that matter, will move, and spikes will scratch hardwood floors, will dig into the linoleum flooring. So best thing is to get yourself a carpet and protect your flooring, and change them to the switch them over to the rubber feet. Okay, so looks like we're good here with the bass drum. This item is the bass drum tom mount. So this is where we'll put our tom arms to support our rack toms. Okay, so now we have our bass drum here ready to receive the tom mount. And so what we're going to do is place this tom mount. It's really cool. It's a 3-hole tom mount, and this comes with an extra hole, so you can put a cymbal boom arm or a percussion arm, and then you have a little splash cymbal in between the 2 rack toms. So we just tighten it up there. That piece is sold separately. Just simply slide the mount inside the bass drum receiver, and then we have our tom arms. So Yamaha uses a ball and socket, which is really nice. Gives you multi-angle, you can spin it around, really easy to secure. And they come with memory clamps, and these memory clamps will keep your hardware in position. So when you're setting up and tearing down, you just simply put it in place and you're ready to go. The other thing to keep in mind also is that you want these key bolts right here, this little key bolt. So we use our drum key that's included, and easy access, right? So we don't want to go the other way, then you're reaching in and you actually can't adjust it. So just a little tip. So I'm going to turn this around slightly so you can see better. I don't know if that's, yeah. And we want to angle this out. So now make sure everything's tight. Finger tight. Don't over tighten it, because that does have plastic bushings. They can crack. So really no need to over tighten. And now we have our tom toms. Slide it into position like this. Slide this one in. Tighten it. And notice that with this particular set, it has a ball and socket, so you can easily turn it upside down for easy access to the bottom heads, for tuning, and for adjustments. Just as another point, every drum manufacturer uses their own tom mount system. So Pearl have 7/8 diameter. Tama uses a ball and socket, but they're positioned this way rather than this way. Sonar, the same thing. DW uses a ball and socket, but it's positioned like a L rod. Same with Ludwig. So there's different manufacturers, but they all do the same thing, and that is to house the tom, and whether it be on the bass drum or off the bass drum, where you clamp it onto a cymbal stand. So you'll see the kit that you have, whether it be a Pearl, Tama, another Yamaha, DW, Ludwig. The tom arms are different, but they all do the same thing. Okay. Now to the floor tom. Okay, so now we're going to put the drum heads on the floor tom. This is a 16-inch floor tom, and we're going to start with the bottom. And what I do is I tap the heads, see what kind of tone. And generally I put the lower pitched drum head on the top, the batter side. So this will be our reso head. look for the logo, and that'll go opposite side of where the badge is. And then we put the counter hoop on, and then we have our tension rods. So in they go. Same idea what we did with the bass drum, except this time we don't have claws. Just put the tension rods on, finger tight, just a couple of twists. If you want to save time, you can use 2 drum keys at the same time. I don't know if I have a spare one on me, but that's okay. So again, we're just going to go and do a little top test, listen for any rattles. We don't want rattles. And as you can hear, as we're tightening the drum head, we're starting to hear some tone. So that papery sound is going away. And in terms of tuning, we'll do that in the next segment. Right now it's just putting the heads on. And because it's a floor tom, we have floor tom legs. Typically 3. Again, watch for the spikes. These legs do not come with memory clamps. The legs are knurled. So that provides extra grip. So really no need for memory clamps. Although you do have to remember where you set them. But in terms of them sitting securely, knurled legs, we'll keep that. So let's see where we're at here. All right. Coolio. Okay, so we just look for that badge, which is right there. We have our drum head with the Remo logo on there, opposite end. Got our counter hoop. And we just start putting our tension rods into the So the important thing to remember when putting the tension rods in and tightening the head is that you don't want to over tighten one side or you want to keep it equal tension. It maintains the sweet spot in the center of the head. So you go opposite ends. And just turn these tension rods to the point where you get a little resistance, and then you just move to the next one. The fine tuning will come. Right now we're just putting the drum head on. I don't know if you caught that, I cheated a little bit. I went from here to here. 2 points. So there's a rattle in there somewhere. We're going to take that out. Tap it some more. so at this point, again, next segment, we'll look at the tuning of the drums. But I just wanted to show you how to install the drum heads using the drum key. First by putting the head on, counter hoops, tension rods, finger tight opposite ends, then use your key opposite ends, quarter turn to a half turn, full turn, depending on where the tension rods are sitting inside the leg inserts. And there's your floor tom. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the snare drum. And like I had mentioned before, most kits that come packaged with the snare drum is typically assembled already. And so most of the work is done already. You just take your drum key, you want to tighten up the bottom head, and typically tighten up the bottom head pretty tight. The reason for that is that these snare wires, hence the snare drum, will rattle off of the drum head to a preferred sound. There are no rules. You can always detune if you wish, if you want more of that fat, wet sound. I personally like them tight and crisp. So with the bottom head, you tune it up. You notice here the snare wires with this throw off engaged. If I loosen it up, snare wires become loose and you get that sound. With the snare wires, you want to take your drum key and see that the wires are snug along the snare head at the bottom. So that's really important. Same thing with on this side, you take your drum key, loosen it up. You also have a fine tune adjustment here. You can really tune it up or tune it down. Loosen. And I'll show you how that works on the top. So just like we did with the floor tom and the bass drum putting on the tom-tom heads, this head comes already attached. If we disengage the throw off, we get a tom-tom sound. How do we mount this? Well, we put it on what's called a snare stand. And this is the basket for the snare stand. So you open up the tripod, you open up the basket portion, and you set the drum on top like so. What you want to do, of course, with everything is to secure it. So there's a nut under here. You just turn it and turn. And if you're right-handed, then the throw off, well, I mean, there's no rules, but throw off would be on the left-hand side. Some drummers like positioning the throw off in the center, easy flick this way. But just to show you that the drum sits Hey guys, give us a thumbs up if you liked our video, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more information and helpful tips.